Have you ever tried black and white photography? I don't mean converting a colour photo into black and white in Lightroom or anything. I mean, have you ever gone out deliberately to take black and white photos? If you haven't, you're missing out on something that will really help you improve your photography, no matter what style you take or whether you prefer to take in colour or black and white. The reason it'll help you improve your photography is black and white teaches us how to see differently and how to improve some of your basic skills like composition and framing. Black and white photography removes a lot of the distractions and it concentrates on three particular things: the subject, the light, and the background. The first thing it does is it teaches us a bit more about light, because in a black and white photograph you're totally reliant on the light to create some interest in your photographs, because you need shade and highlights. You need contrast, and what can give you more contrast than black against white? So it really forces you to look at where the light's going and what it's doing to the subject you're photographing. Now, the second thing with black and white photographs is you need to be spot on with your composition. A badly composed photograph doesn't usually work in colour or black and white, but it'll be particularly stand out in black and white because you've nothing else to distract you. Think also about what you should include in your frame, because minimalist subjects work very well in black and white too. So keeping unnecessary clutter out of your frame will improve your black and white photograph. I thought in today's video I would give you 5 key tips to get you started with black and white photography, in the hope that I might encourage you to give it a go. My tip number 1 is, first of all, set your camera profile to black and white so that you can see straight away what you're photographing. You can see if you've got enough contrast in your scene to make it an interesting black and white photograph. And at the same time, do shoot in RAW. There's a couple of good reasons for this. One is, if you don't like it in black and white and think it would actually work better in colour, then you've still got the RAW file as a colour option. The other thing is, you want to try and bring out as much detail and contrast as you can. So having the highest quality file will help you capture that. Now, the second thing is to go and understand light. So what you're doing now is looking for shade and for highlights, or you're looking for strong contrast of light. Perhaps there's a shaft of light coming into a scene, so you've got this very bright area surrounded by dark shadows. And those are the kind of things that will create interesting photographs in black and white. The third thing you want to do is look for other things like reflections or texture. So texture will reflect light in many different ways, and that can be on things like buildings or even subjects in nature. You know, a tree with very sort of knobbly and craggy bark will reflect and refract the light in many different directions, creating lots of contrast on a macro level. So that can make a really interesting subject in black and white. Ansel Adams used this to great effect. You can see that in this shot of a rose on some driftwood. Reflections also work super well if you get something like maybe a cityscape, as you can see in this photograph I took. Because you've got lights reflected in the water, normally the water would just be a dark mass, and in your black and white photograph would be dark grey or something. But because you've got the reflected light in there, you've got some areas of highlights now, and that's created some contrast and some more interest in your photograph. My fourth tip would be try long exposures. Now, long exposures have this kind of magical effect. They tend to create a bit more of a mystical feel to your photographs, and that will work well in black and white. It'll change things like your sky, for example. If you've got clouds, you'll now get long streaks of those clouds. So you've got areas where you've got a long streak of white against a blue sky, which would be dark in their processing. Look out for my video coming on waterfalls, where I'm going to shoot those in black and white, and you'll see exactly what I mean about creating contrast between white and dark. And my fifth and final tip is, if you don't develop your photos at all, then maybe now is the time to start, because this is the real secret to getting the best out of black and white images. And some of those images you'll have seen, and I put some classic examples up here on the screen, they've been processed. Ansel Adams, one of the most famous photographers who did a lot of landscapes and things, they were heavily processed, and he came up with this zone system. And if you're not familiar with that, I'll put a link to a video. Is it up here or is it up here? I can't remember. At the top of the screen anyway. and you can see a bit more about his own system. But go and Google it and read all about it, because that'll help you understand how you get all these different shades of grey that enhance your black and white image. The other thing about black and white photography is it's very freeing. Now, what do I mean by that? One of the things I notice when I post a colour photograph on a Facebook group or Instagram or whatever, I quite often get some feedback that I've oversaturated the colours, or I've made it too colourful, it doesn't look natural anymore. And that may be the case. Here's a typical example of a photograph I took of Fleetwood Pike in the Lake District. Now, I did oversaturate the colours. I did make it a bright, colourful image because that's how I felt at the time I took it. To get this photograph, I rode over the Lakeland Passes on my motorbike, arrived at this beautiful scene, put up my drone as the sun was setting, and captured this lovely scene. So I felt really good, I felt bright and cheerful, and I wanted to reflect that in the photograph, which is why it's processed in this way. If you do that in a black and white photograph, you can change what you like. We've never seen a black sky, but you'll often see it in black and white photographs. And people don't latch onto that. What they're looking at and treating your photographs is a piece of art, because you're making the decisions of what's going to be black and what's going to be white and so on, and where the contrast and the highlights are. So it's a real chance for you to find some artistic expression in your work. And the other thing that is freeing about it is you really have got a clean sheet when it comes to processing your photographs. You can make a scene completely different in black and white. You can choose which areas you want to be dark and which areas you want to be light or dark grey. So if there's something you've seen that you don't want to be very obvious, you might darken it down. If there's something you want to make prominent, then you'll lighten that up so it stands out to the viewer. So it gives you the opportunity really to create the scene you want. Now, the other thing I would say with black and white photography that will help you as a photographer, it will enhance your storytelling. Because black and white photography has the power to evoke strong emotions and tell those powerful stories, as you can see in some of these images here. So to summarize, black and white photography offers a chance to create some nostalgia, some mystery, and bring a timelessness and a beauty to your photography that you might not be able to do with a colour photograph. It's a way to see the world in a different light. I'd love to see some of your black and white compositions. You can share them in the Nifty 50 Photographers Facebook group. There's a link in the description below. Or you can put them on the community tab and I'll give you my feedback. In the meantime, do go out and try black and white photography and let me know how it helped with your photography overall. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.